Hello everyone and welcome to Manc and Yank. I'm Tom and I'm a Manc.
I'm Meg and I'm a Yank.
And today we are looking at a classic British film, Zulu. Okay, so Meg, first of all, what do you know about Zulu?
I know that the last letter of the phonetic alphabet can be used as either Zulu or Zebra.
Okay.
Other than that, literally nothing.
Do you know where it's set?
No.
Do you know where the Zulu tribe is from?
Well, you're saying tribe, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Africa.
It is set in Africa.
I got one right, finally.
I guess this is going to be interesting coming from you, an American, because let me just do some word association here. What sort of image are you getting in the mind if I should say the Redcoats?
The British.
Yes, and what sort of characters on screen are the Redcoats?
Oh, they're always, I don't know, posh, shovey people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shovey's the right word.
Are they usually the bad guys in what you would say? In American culture, the Redcoats?
The British guys?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, British are always bad guys in American movies. They're usually bald, white British men in black turtlenecks.
But I mean literally when you see...
When I see them in the Redcoats?
In the Redcoats.
Oh yeah, that's an American movie, absolutely.
You get the colonial sort of...
Oh,
forces.
Absolutely.
So...
It's the American Revolution coming in.
This is going to be an interesting one where you get to see the Redcoats, who are very much the protagonists of the film.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
It is going to be about... so for those of you know, if you're British, I'm sure you know, it is about British forces in colonial Africa. And it's about a battle called the Battle of Rorke's Drift.
Okay.
I don't know if you know much about that.
No.
Well, we won't go into it too much now.
I was going to say, you're about to give me spoilers here?
No, I will let you watch the film and see what you think. Let's talk about some of the stars of the film that you may be aware of.
Ooh, I don't know actors very well.
Right, so it is a very old film as well.
Okay.
So I don't remember the exact date. It's a 1964 film. We just googled it. So 1964. God, it is. It's over 50 years old. Is my maths right there? That's over 50 years old now, isn't it? That's going up for 60 years old in a few years. That's an old film, very old. So there's only one person who is very, very young in this now, who is an old man now, and is a very famous British actor, in particular for his accent. Is a Mr. Michael Cain.
Oh gosh, I know I've heard that name. Fill me in here. Remind me.
Have you seen?
What would I have seen him in?
Oh, he was in The Italian Job. He's the main guy.
Who did he play?
He's the main guy in The Italian Job.
Oh, okay, then yeah, I know.
Okay, there you go. She
I
knows
like the little cars.
She knows Michael Cain.
I like the Mini Coupes.
She's seen Italian Job too, so we can't do that.
I'll watch it again.
But no, actually, Italian Job was going to be my first pick for doing a classic British film, and she'd seen it.
That's a classic British film. It's not that old.
Yes, it is.
The one with Charlize there.
Oh my God, she's only seen the remake. She's only seen the remake. We can do it. What was Charlize Theron? No, not Charlize Theron.
Is that her name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The original one with Michael Caine.
Oh,
He goes, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off."
Yeah, that's the same line in the new one.
Who says it?
I didn't know.
Fantastic. This is totally unscripted. This is phenomenal.
I'm so confused right now.
We're going to do Italian Job.
It's a remake? Why did nobody ever tell me that?
And the remakes.
I've been cheated.
The remake is appalling in comparison to the original.
No, I like the little cars. I thought they were cute.
Yeah, it's got the minis in the
Mini Coupes, yeah.
Yeah, but the original Mini Coupes in the old film.
Ooh,
I'm
interested now.
Oh my God. My day's just been made. Anyway, today we're doing Zulu. But I can't wait to do Italian Job now. So.
Alright, I'll just have to figure out who this guy is then by watching, since obviously I haven't actually seen anything.
Okay then.
Sorry.
We'll see you guys later. Let's go watch some Zulu. And we're back. We have watched Zulu, and once again, one if not both of us have much shorter hair than last time. Meg went for a pretty severe chop off there, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep, I have.
No, it's nice though.
Time for a change.
It's nice though. But anyway, enough about Meg's new haircut. What did you think of the British classic that was Zulu?
So I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. And you know that I already felt this way because I said it partway through the movie, which was maybe like, I don't know, it was before the battle actually started, right?
Mm-hmm.
I made a comment that I was like, this is the most boring movie ever. And then as soon as the battle started, I regretted ever making that remark, honestly, because it got real interesting real fast. And I get now that they were just trying to set the backstory and there were a lot of events that they kind of needed to explain and lay out the characters. And that made sense.
I also think that is a typical thing of movies of this time, particularly those big epics. There's a lot of films around this time of like epics of that will culminate in a large battle, and yeah, they are typically slow burners. So you do get that very slow build up, a lot of talking, a lot of setup. But yeah, then it goes, like you say, it gets real interesting.
It got real good, real fast, yeah.
So let's start with that. That build up. So, like, which of the characters did you find interesting in the build up? Did you see like some of the things about British society and their place in them, and it still does kind of permeate today?
Oh yes, very much. So I suppose Bromhead would be, in my opinion, the pinnacle of what has still bled through to society nowadays, in my opinion, which is that family heritage means everything over here. Mm-hmm. If your family in the past was affluent, you're likely to be affluent and you can brag about that. For some reason, that ups your status. I'm sorry, I think it's ridiculous. I think you should be a self-made person, but that's me, I guess. I don't know. But Bromhead, he talks about how he got his place in the military. Yeah, so when him and Shard are like battling, basically tit for tat for who's better, which was pissing me off at part of the movie, honestly, because I was like, this is ridiculous. We have more important things to worry about than YouTube having a pissing contest.
I think that's the point, isn't it?
It is, yeah, I know. And I got that was why they were doing it. It was like, this is ridiculous. We have bigger problems to focus on. But to me, I was just like, I could feel it. I was just like, this is so ridiculous. Because I've seen people do this before. But I had more respect for Shard, I guess, because he wasn't like trying to play the, this is who I am, I'm so important card. He was like, he actually cared about people.
Yeah.
Bromhead's like, my grandfather was a colonel and, my grandfather was a general, sorry. My great-grandfather was a colonel and, like, knelt by somebody who was doing something important in Canada. I forget what it was. Yeah, it's just...
I will mention one thing about that scene that you're mentioning there. I agree with you that Bromhead was lording it up and was clearly an aristocrat and was clearly showing off. In that particular scene, though, when he mentions his grandfather and he talks about his dad being at Waterloo, that is not him doing that, if you remember.
No, it's not. It's trying to him basically...
Do you remember what he says?
Didn't he say something about, like, essentially there's like a proven leadership within their family blood, isn't it? Yeah,
but do you remember what he says after it? He says to him, Shard talks about how going, yeah, I get what you're saying. You think that you think that I'm the amateur and you're the professional. And he says, no, you don't get what I'm driving at. He says, I wish I was a damn ranker. He says he wishes...
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So at that point, yeah, Shard is getting sick of him going, yeah, okay, you're lording up your family history. And he's there saying, I wish I didn't have that. I wish I didn't have that weight of expectation on me.
But he, despite making that comment, his actions contradicted that to the extreme. And I have to say, whoever did his makeup, you could have gone a little bit lighter on the eyeliner, probably. It was a bit much.
What do you mean by his actions contradicted that?
Well, I just feel like he came off like a very pompous asshole. I'm sorry. It's probably a little harsh, but...
He does... I agree with you. At first, he does, yes.
Yeah, and I feel like, you can say everything you want to, like, make yourself seem super modest. But unless your, like, actions really reflect that and the way you treat people... And I felt like as it got more deep into the battle, you started to realize he wasn't such a dick when he was like, no, we need you, you're going to make it. Like, that kind of turned my opinion on him. But before that, I was not sold on the fact that, yes, he made that comment. I didn't believe it.
I think that is something that is really good about this film.
The turning of the characters?
Yes, I think there's a real sort of character. The characters are not one-dimensional.
No,
it's not a case of this is who they are and they stay that way. It would have been really easy to have, Bromhead just be a coward later, but he wasn't, was he? He fought hard and he put himself in harm's way, and he was clearly understood what he was doing. He was clearly a capable leader.
Well, what was funny was that neither of them, it turns out, had any experience. That was both their first battle.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking about, like, the emotional effects at the end. Like, you kind of... Bromhead's talking about, like, oh my gosh, this is so much worse than I expected type of thing. Like, I feel ashamed. All of this, he's, like, listing off the various emotions that deeply affected him. Mm-hmm. Which kind of gives you, a hint into, obviously, the trauma that I'm sure you endure in situations like that, watching people you love and care about die and having to kill other people.
I think... the comments you've made is very interesting. We're going to stick a pin in it for now.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that later. First of all, before we get on to that, I just want you to tell me, what did you think of it as a film from a filmmaking perspective?
Honestly, I think I have more respect for this than probably any modern type movies. And obviously, I know that we laughed at a lot of, like, the special effects type of things. But of course, I'm a huge Bond fan, and some of the Bonds were made around then, so I knew not to expect much given the time.
I should say what she meant really about the idea of the special effect was the blood and gore is just, it's non-existent. The film is actually rated a PG.
I don't know, that blood they showed was pretty bright red.
Yeah. You'll just see, gunfire going off, and then people just go, and fall over, and some of all these Zulu warriors are obviously shirtless, so you can't even hide it underneath clothing. There should be bullet wounds, and they
usually have someone like on the ground who's already collapsed, and somebody else who's like face down on top of them, so it's like their wounds cover each other.
Yeah, and like even with a bayonet stabbing, then so there was a few times when someone gets hit with a spear, where they actually make the effort to make it look like it's gone in them. But apart from that, there's nothing really. So, but like you said with Bond, it's
yeah, the graphics in terms of special effects and such obviously are much better. It's just what it was at the time. I suppose I'm not trying to harshly judge it against nowadays movies, because that's it's not a fair comparison.
No, it's not.
However, fake blood and killing aside, the fire scene.
Yeah. That was pretty scary.
There was no special effects in that, and I'm pretty sure that looked quite dangerous. So I actually have respect for them, because that was one of the scenes where I don't think they did much in terms of special effects. They lit a building on fire and had people performing their scene, and they're like, all right, gotta get this done before this place actually burns down.
Yeah, I don't know if that's literally what they did, and anyone who knows more about this stuff, please in the comments, because that looked genuinely terrifyingly real. Like, these people looked like they were inches away from actual flames and inside a building. Like, that looked pretty...
I was going to say, the one with, like, the liquor cabinet, I could kind of... I'm just taking a guess here. I think that was a more open set, so I don't think that was as closed in. But some of the other stuff, they're, like, climbing out the window and stuff, and those flames are there.
Yeah.
That's right there. Like, you can see them, like, on their arms practically.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
No, that was...
Acting aside, I would still be panicking.
Yeah. So, I want to take a minute, though, to discuss some of the just beautifully wonderful shots and the use of sound that they do. Yeah, but I think that bit of the build, when it's at night and that building's on fire and the two guys just stood there watching it and it just burns down, and it's just... I think... some of the cinematography in this film is just...
the views.
It's just wonderful. It's just such a well-made film.
It's a very, simple, I guess, in terms of the locale. It wasn't anything horribly fancy. It was, a small couple buildings and in a giant-looking valley type thing. Mm-hmm. But it worked perfect, and it was gorgeous. And you're right, everything they did, I think they did perfectly in terms of that. It was... pretty spot on. Mm-hmm. Made you really feel everything that was going on.
Okay, so in terms of the film itself, slow burner, but you enjoyed it in the end.
Slow slow in the start. Once
Yeah.
the battle basically got started, or well, I suppose once the priest got drunk, basically, that's when things started to pick up real fast.
He did.
So I was going to say, it started getting entertaining there, and then it picked up and only improved from there.
And so...
The singing bit, I really liked that.
Okay, well, I was about to come on to this.
Okay.
So I said...
Rushing ahead.
Yeah. So I guess what I want to do now is in this second half, really I just want to discuss some of the cultural impact of the film. Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll start with that then. We'll start with that singing scene. So for anyone who has not seen Zulu, please explain to them what I mean by the singing scene.
So the Zulus obviously have all their like battle chants and things that they do. They have like different ones, it seems like, for each type of emotion or even like battle strategy they're going to use. But at one point they just start singing, and it's almost like an intimidation type thing, like we're going to get you.
And they do the bit where they got the spears on the
banging,
shield.
Yeah, they're banging on their
and
shields.
It's all totally in unison, and these hundreds of people on screen, and it's all in unison.
Yeah, so they have all their battle chants and their singing and such, and then, they start getting all boisterous, and then it's, what is it? Shard walks up to the other guy. Yeah, one of the guys who was in
the choir.
Was it the choir? Yeah.
The Welsh regiment. So you got the Welsh lads, haven't you? And
they had their choir. They've got it's like a tenor, and he's talking about all the different.
He makes that joke, doesn't he? About he said they've got a very good bass section, but no tenors.
They got no tenor, and then he's like, "You think you can do better?" He's like, "Give it a try." And
You think the Welsh can't do better than that, Owen?
Well, they've got a very good bass section, mine. But no top tenors, that's for sure. Stop your dreaming. Can't you see their spear points gleaming? See their warrior pennons streaming to this battlefield.
I'll start singing, and like the two of them almost having like a musical battle, as like cheesy as that sounds.
No,
it really gave you like, I felt like it tugged at the heartstrings a little, It just like, it made you feel for him. It's like, despite the fact that all this shit's going on around them, on both sides for that matter, they take a moment to be like, we can do better than you at that too.
But I thought that the scene when that happens, when you have those two, you got the Welsh choir and this African battle chant, and they're just happening at the same time. I know I'm not the first person to talk about this scene, and other people could probably do it better than me, but it's just so good. It's such a wonderful scene. It is, honestly, it made me feel so emotional just watching it. It
gave me goosebumps there at the start. It
was incredible. And okay, so one point we will make is about the depiction of the Zulu themselves. Now, one thing, I don't know about you, one thing I was kind of worried about going into this film was that the cultural depiction of the African men, the Zulu, and I have seen this film before, but it's been a while, and I've kind of forgotten. So go on.
I was going to say, I feel like it sounds really terrible to say, but I did not have high hopes for that going into the movie. The sole reason being is that obviously racism was a touchy subject even then.
I mean, bear in mind, this is in the 60s.
Yeah, I know, but it was still touchy.
I know. No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
It was still touchy.
You were trying to say, like, improved, and I was like, but not by much.
Incredibly touchy. This is the height of the civil rights movement.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to get at. I was like, slavery's over, but it's really not that much fun.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I thought you were trying to go the other way. I was like...
No, I'm saying that made in the 60s, imagine the racial tensions that are going on in real life at this time.
Well, and I mean, to be honest, nowadays, despite the fact that we've made some progress, obviously, I'm going to say some because I'm not sold on that, but that's a topic for a different day.
It makes the film still pertinent. Definitely, if you consider there's still racial tensions today, and I know there's some people who say
they don't always do it as fondly in terms of how we portray the Africans nowadays. A lot of times they'll just portray them as very like barbaric and archaic and just like, oh, they're so backwards, they don't know anything. these people, I mean, whether the battle strategies or not were real, I suppose.
They were, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, we'll come to that in a sec.
Good to know. I was gonna say, however, that aside, they portrayed them just generally as a people, not just their battle strategies, but like as a people to be not quite as backwards as a lot of people nowadays would try and portray them in a movie. I mean, in the first scene that you see, it's that
big wedding.
Yeah, exactly. It's the wedding, and it's the Zulus who are having the wedding, and it's like the. You guys don't call him priest, do you? It's just minister?
I suppose he was a priest. He was a missionary. It's like the idea of...
he was a Swedish missionary. It was the Wits, wasn't it?
It's the idea that Christian missionaries were sent over there to try and convert the locals to Christianity.
Yeah, but I mean, his daughter, Margarita, obviously had... You've seen it in the first scene where she's like questioning certain things and stuff, and she's like, they have spears, like this is ridiculous type of thing, and the dad goes to explain that...
I think that her big issue was the idea that it was a mass wedding, like the idea of it wasn't just a one-on-one wedding, it was a wedding of hundreds of people at the same time.
Yes, no, definitely that. That was her first point, but she did also mention the spears being involved, and she didn't fully understand it, and the dad further goes into mention and explain that actually the spears are a symbol of chastity. And I was like, oh, that's like really interesting. So you see that they made an effort to understand the people and their views and like where they're coming from. Not just the Brit side, but like also the Zulu side. And I thought that it gave it something a little extra.
I think this film is so much better for that as well. There are no good guys and bad guys in this film.
I was gonna say.
You don't look at this and go, those Zulu are this. I mean, okay, so there's two sides of things. You can say that, you've got this... The British are clearly being portrayed as like this underdog force. There's only 150 of them, and there's thousands of the Zulu, and so you feel sorry for them. And these are just men who are trying to survive.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you also on the other side, you don't feel like the Zulus are these
terrible people. They're just trying to protect their home, their people, their land that they had first. They're just defending themselves essentially.
I think the film does clearly have something of an anti-colonialist message in it, and I think the idea you are meant to respect the Zulu.
Bit of an anti-war too. I know it was a war film, but I feel like it had a tinge of anti-war in it just because the way they discussed it. Like again, Bromhead and Shard at the very end. You just kind of, they look around at all the devastation, even when they're doing that roll call at the very end. It gives you, honestly gives you goosebumps watching them do that. It's very tragic.
Yeah, I mean, all the best anti-war films involve war, because that's the whole point. Yeah. You went to see the brutality of it. And like you say, okay, that scene is a really good scene, where he's calling, so again, for those who've never seen it or don't remember it, he's doing the sergeant, the colour sergeant at the end, he's doing a roll call of all these men, and then he says someone's name. Every so often he's going to say a name of someone who's died, and so he says the name.
There's no answer. The person's dead,
and there's no answer, and you have that moment of silence where you always have to go, there's another guy, there's another friend, another colleague who's dead.
Goes through like 8 letters, or not like 8 letters, but like 8. I think it was like B names or something. I don't know. It was one of the letters of the alphabet right at the start, and he goes through like several of them before you hit another person who's alive, and it's just like it kind of hits you how many of them didn't make it. But I have to say, I was quite happy that Hook made it.
You also have that scene also, despite its sadness, also had like some colour of humour to it. Yeah. There's a bit where he shouts out Hitch, I think the guy's name is, and then there's no answer, and he goes, I know you're alive, Hitch, I've just seen you. And he goes, oh, sorry, sir.
Yeah.
That's a fun. So
yeah, and Hook kind of turns around too. Again, it's like they show you the change in their character.
Yeah.
Like you think he's just a simple guy who got stuck in the army because he stole some stuff. He's a thief, and so his punishment is he has to be in the military. And then that's it. That's the end of his character, is what you think. However, they go to reveal more, which is that it was his sergeant, was it, on the bunk below him, who sent money to his missus while he was away, because obviously no one was helping her.
Yeah.
That was really sweet. And then he goes back into the burning building and tries to save him, and he ends up really getting into the fight, even though he didn't want to be a part of it.
No, he didn't.
He was like, this is ridiculous, this is forced upon me, I don't want to do this. But in the end he's like, we're all making it out. Mm-hmm. And he joined in.
Yeah.
And he made it at the end, and that made me happy. He was one of the ones that got What was the award?
The Victoria Cross. So the end of the film it goes through a list of all the characters in the film, of those of them who got the Victoria Cross. And for anyone who doesn't understand what the Victoria Cross is, it is the highest military honour that can be bestowed in the British Army. And a number of them got the British Cross there.
Yeah, a number of them did. And I thought it was really sweet, honestly, that he got one. I mean, because for someone who was forced to be there, but he obviously came out on top.
So one thing I thought was really good about this film is their depiction of battle tactics. And again, on both sides, they show the military capabilities of both of these groups. So first of all, they did the bull and horns tactics, isn't it? So they have
the Zulu.
Yeah. So the idea is that they charge in a main line, which is the bull, as it were, the centre, and then when the centre is engaged with the enemy's force, you will have other troops from behind them will then split off and then flank around. So you've got these
like
horns.
The bull and the horns, like the head.
Horns.
Yeah.
And so whilst, this main centre is engaging, and then before the enemy even realises it, they're outflanked. Mm-hmm. And then that's usually all she wrote.
Thankfully, somebody knew their battle tactic. One of the, what did they call them? Boers, was it?
Yeah, so there was one of the Boers there, and he is leading the native auxiliaries. And he understands. He's the one who tells them about the Zulu and about their tactics. He knows them.
So they knew how to better defend themselves again, which definitely gave them an advantage, it looks like.
Yeah, so they did the British managed to negate the flanking manoeuvre though, didn't they? And that's because they had Rorke's Drift, which was we've not actually mentioned Rorke's Drift here, have we? Which is the name of the battle. No. It's so basically they're at a supply station, and there are so few of them because at the start of the film, you see that a large British force was caught completely unawares by the Zulu and were wiped out. And we don't actually see that film. There is actually, by the way, a prequel that came out. That came out over 10 years later, called Zulu Dawn.
Is it as good?
I've not actually watched it, but I know it is.
Should we watch it?
Has anyone seen it? Is it good? Should we watch it? But yeah, it's about how the British were caught unaware and how they were wiped out. So Zulu Dawn leads up to those events that we get right at the start of the film.
Yeah, they only show them all dead on the battlefield, basically. That's all it is.
So, anyway, the British in Zulu are defending a supply station called Rorke's Drift. And there's only, like I say, a handful of them, and thousands of Zulu are all descending on them.
It was like 4,000 of them or something, wasn't it? Yeah.
And they managed to negate those bull and horns tactics, those flanking manoeuvres, because they use the defensive position of the buildings to mean that they defend the walls, don't they, all around?
Yeah, they built some really good walls. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. They use their enemies' tactics basically against them so they can better defend themselves and then attack as needed.
So I know that you were particularly impressed by the British use of rank fire as well. I don't know. So go on. Explain to us what you saw then. What is the rank fire?
You'd probably explain it better. You're more of a history war buff than I am. So I suppose it's like they break into lines and it's like, the back line was the one that shot, right? Yeah, so...
The front line was shot first.
The front line shot first? Okay, so front line shot first. Back line steps forward. They shoot.
Yeah.
Front line reloads their guns.
So they have to kneel down first.
Yeah, exactly.
So you fire, kneel down, and then the people behind you fire over your head.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's like almost like there's constant firing is basically what it is. Because obviously reloading your gun back then, it was not a incredibly, I mean, it was simpler than what it had been prior to that.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's automatic like it is today.
Yes, you can see, so this is in the 1870s. I mean, 1879, I believe the battle was. And you can see their guns, they're not load down the barrel muskets. It's not where you have to put like the charge and the shot. And
they kind of like snap.
They have like the breech loading at the bottom, and they used so that they snap a bit like you would with a shotgun. Like I think you breech, you put the thing down, but it takes
time.
It's one shot. It's fire, then you got to reload. Fire, then you got to reload. So it's quicker than putting it down the barrel and stuffing it.
Yeah.
But it
makes you vulnerable. That extra few seconds gives you the opportunity to either get a spear through you or a bullet or whatever the case may be.
And then, so the sort of the last final push of the Zulu is when you saw that, when they had one of them behind the sandbags, didn't they? And then they had the 2 ranks below it, and it was...
Exactly. So they made it seem like they weren't going to win type of thing, like kind of like made themselves vulnerable on purpose, and then like it was like, bam, all the ones behind the second line of sandbags popped up, and you're like, oh...
Yeah.
They were better planned than you thought.
And they all rush in, don't they? And it's just like, they create a kill zone, and it's like...
You just see the bodies piling up.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it was, just a case of fire, duck. And so the effect of it is that you have a constant rain of fire down on your enemy, and it's just...
But the timing that it, even for this just being a movie, it was spot on, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the military obviously had it quite as well.
I
rehearsed.
think that use of ranked fire, I think Zulu is one of the best depictions of that tactic, and it was really impressive how well they did it.
I don't think I'd ever really seen it before.
It's really impressive how they did it, yeah. So I guess one last thing I want to talk about in terms of what is unique for us here to discuss is the idea of, and I think we touched on this in the intro, is the idea of the redcoats, as it were. You're an American, Meg, and
God.
we have in episode 1. If you've not watched it, go and watch episode 1. One of the things we discussed on that is how you are so used to seeing the pompous upper class British person is the baddie. How was it for you watching a film wherein one of the literal sort of symbolic depictions of American baddie, the British redcoat, is depicted as the protagonist? Is that...
My country's made enough mistakes, so I'm really not going to judge anybody based on
No,
that. However, I think this movie did a really good job of making you feel for both sides. Like you said, I mean, they portrayed both sides. Neither side was the bad guy or the good guy, really. It was, you were genuinely torn emotionally and morally. I think that was kind of the point of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt for both sides, yeah.
Okay.
But I think it was just mainly like the number of deaths, which they portrayed very well in that movie in terms of the numbers. Yeah, I mean, it kind of hits you hard. It leaves you breathless.
Okay. Yeah. So no thoughts on, as an American, to see this idea of the British Empire sort of seen...
How many military films does the U.S. have that we flatter ourselves with? There's like an entire, I want to say 8-section movie of just Gettysburg. So and that's only a portion of the Civil War. That's not even the whole damn thing. So, I mean, we've got our whole own collection of things.
I know you do. And that's, I was asking that.
To be fair, I haven't seen most of them. I have seen some of the Gettysburg ones, but...
Okay, so I guess finally, before we wrap this up, I do want to talk about that final scene.
The one with the super cheesy line.
And it is a bit cheesy, yeah.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, so we've had our 2 days of, a day and a night's worth of battles.
Yeah,
and
when I realised it was 2 days, I was so shocked.
Well, that's typically how long some battles would last, It's not...
Yeah, but it's just... I don't know.
I think, okay, so before
a lot happened.
Before we do that, one thing I will say about Zulu is that I think it does sort of bring home the fatigue of battle. I think in terms of movies and movie scenes where it involves battles, these scenes will last 10-15 minutes. And I think it gives the incorrect impression that real life battles would have been a quick boom, 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 intense fight, it's done.
And I think that's why maybe this one seemed longer to me, is because you're usually, you're right. So 10 minutes usually equals a day's worth in a normal movie, but because this was so long of a period straight, I guess I thought it was longer. I
think in real life, battles would last hours, if not all day.
They would.
And this is a film that I think successfully managed to portray just how drawn out and tiring it must have been to do it.
They did a good job just by showing people building the walls. You got that feeling, though.
And they're knackered, aren't they? And you
see
some of them
at one
wanting
point
to
they're
fall
all
asleep.
asleep at one point.
Yeah.
Oh, when Bromhead was why did you let me sleep? And he's you were tired, you needed it.
Yeah.
And it was and he's so grateful, but it's also still slightly you shouldn't have let that happen.
So we get to the end, and they are all exhausted. They have just endured a day and a bit's worth of battle.
But they won. The Zulus retreated.
And then you see the Zulus back up on the hill again, and they're all looking at it going, I guess this is it. I think we're done.
Yeah,
now.
they're all kind of like ready to do it at the end, and then the one guy starts laughing.
Yeah, and he starts going, "Go on then, what are you waiting for?" Like, I think they've all just resigned themselves to going,
if you're gonna take us out, just do it.
Yeah, I think we're dead now.
Yeah.
And then you all know the scene. We don't even need to explain.
Instead, they do the super cheesy line where the guy's like, "What are they waiting for?" I think is essentially what
Bromhead says. Yeah.
Yeah, Bromhead essentially says, "What are they waiting for?" And then the Boar guy responds with, "They're saluting their fellow braves."
Yeah.
In terms of like why they're just like chanting and banging on their shields and just standing there. You told me that wasn't accurate in terms of what happened.
No, that is not historically accurate. No.
And it was a bit cheesy, but it added something to the movie. It added a bit of a.
Did you enjoy it?
We respect our enemies.
Did you enjoy that as a finale, even of how kind of cheesy the line was and how totally inaccurate it was?
I think it caps with the theme of the movie, which was that there's really no good guy, no bad guy, and in this case, although it wasn't accurate, it was basically, we lost this battle, but we respect the fact that you worked so hard and you fought your piece, and good for you.
In reality, do you know? I know we did do a bit of research on it. Do you remember seeing what the reality of it was? Why they pulled out?
Hadn't they retreated because they had lost so many? And they just didn't.
Kind of.
There was something else that was. They weren't ever supposed to attack him in the first place.
Yes.
Wasn't that what it was?
Yes.
The king never wanted them to.
Yeah. So in the film, the Zulu king.
He directs them to start it.
And in real life, he told them explicitly not to because he wanted to negotiate from a place of being the defender. And you've just attacked these horribly outnumbered British men who have just fended you off. And to be fair, when it comes to actually negotiating a peace, the British government levied that fact hard. Saying that,
sure they did.
They used it. Believe me, they used it. And also, because they had survived for so long, a relief column was coming in. So I think the Zulus were thinking, if we keep this up, we are going to get trapped between this defensive position that we are losing a lot of men trying to take, and then a full army shows up. They're going to get wiped out. Yeah. So they retreated. I think that's the reality of it. But the film is they just go, okay, we've had enough now. They salute them and then they go. And did you like that? I know a lot of people love that as an ending, and I think it's a.
I thought it fit very well with the tone of the whole movie, so I don't think it was a negative thing, even if it wasn't historically accurate. I thought it fit well. It is,
yeah.
I liked it. I liked the movie honestly as a whole. I genuinely did.
It is an iconic scene, yeah. So yeah, that's about it, isn't it? Any other comments?
I surprisingly enjoyed it way more than I expected. I'm not huge on war films, as you know, but this one for sure sucked me in terms of finding the interest. And if somebody else can suggest one that's just as entertaining, I am up for the challenge.
The Italian Job, maybe. The real one.
You're never going to let me live this down.
No, I am not. And I expect none of you to either.
Sorry.
We'll watch it. I think we're going to have to do an episode. We're going to have to do another Michael Cain one.
I only ever saw it because my friend's like, there's this movie in theater, you want to go? And I was like, alright, yeah, sure.
That was actually a Zulu. I found it interesting on the credits at the beginning. It has introducing Michael Cain. Yeah.
And I was like, oh god.
That's
I
how
saw
it
his
is.
face and I was like, oh my god, the guy from Miss Congeniality?
Miss Congeniality.
Yeah, that's like the first thing I remembered him as. I was like, he's so young.
Of all the films that man has been in, Miss Congeniality is the one you go to.
In my head was him playing Albert in like Batman. I was like, oh, okay, Albert.
Alfred,
Albert, whatever. It's an A name for an old guy.
Anyway, let's wrap this up before you. I'm not going to. That was funny. Let's wrap this up before you embarrass yourself any further.
Yeah. Call it a day.
Okay. Last thing to do. Out of 5 stars, we have said you can have halves if you want to.
Yeah, but nothing in between.
But we're not going for points. This ain't the chicken connoisseur. We ain't having points.
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like it's too much to give it a 5-star because, like, I don't know what I would qualify as a 5-star yet. So I'm gonna go.
I think I talk about this whenever I review things.
Okay.
I often say the idea of if you're waiting for something to be perfect, you'll never give a top score. Something doesn't have to be perfect because nothing is.
All right. Well, in that case, I guess I'll go ahead and I'll give it a 5 to be truthful, because honestly, it was way better than I expected.
No.
There were only 3 total historical inaccuracies overall in the whole movie.
Yeah, so we looked it up. We did watch a video about looking at the research.
Yeah, and did a bit of research and stuff.
And
3 historical inaccuracies. It was that singing.
Yeah.
The scene where they both sing. It was the saluting the fellow braves at the end, and the other one was the way the battle started in terms of whether or not the king had approved it or not. Those were the only 3 inaccuracies.
None of the inaccuracies I felt, especially none of them detract from them, and in fact added to the film. I think the singing scene, like we said, both of them, the one at the end and the one, and the one with the Welsh choir as well, both of those scenes were wonderful.
Yeah.
And so I'm not mad that
I think they added to it.
Yeah.
Right. They kept with the tone of the movie. They kind of tied it all together. It worked well.
Well, there you go. 5 stars.
For a war movie of all things.
It's a classic for a reason. 5 stars. Yeah, I got it. It's just such a good movie. Anyway, on that note, we're gonna say goodbye. So we want to thank you for watching. If you've not, I'd said it at the beginning, but please, the likes and the comments and the subscriptions. We have had thousands of people watch some of our videos, thank you so much for that. But we are at less than 100 subscribers at the minute, so it would help us so much in promoting this thing if you could just go click those buttons. It's free. Just go do it. It's free. Take you a second. Click. That's all you have to do. It's done. Anyway, that's enough of me trying to shield the product. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.